Hey everyone, welcome. Have you ever stopped to think about one of the biggest questions there is? What does it really mean to be alive? Well, today we're going to dive right into that. And we're going to do it by following two young explorers, Paheli and Bujo, on this absolutely amazing journey they took. It's funny. You think of these huge scientific discoveries starting in some fancy high-tech lab, right? But so often, they just start with a simple thought, a little spark of curiosity. And for our adventurers, Paheli and Bujo, that's exactly what happened. All their biggest questions started bubbling up after their travels. So, after seeing so many different places, this was the one question that really got them thinking. Why can a fish only live in water and a camel only in the desert? I mean, it sounds simple, almost obvious, right? But when you really dig into it, why? Why is life so perfectly and specifically tied to where it lives? All right, so let's get into it. We're going to follow in their footsteps, see the world through their eyes, and start piecing together the clues. Our goal here is to figure out not just where things live, but the much bigger question of how they managed to do it. Okay, so the first leg of our journey starts with just looking around, taking it all in. We're talking about the incredible, mind-boggling variety of life that Paheli and Bujo saw. It's like a miniature world tour all packed into one adventure. So check this out. 1 minute, they're way up in the cold Himalayas, surrounded by these huge oak trees, pines, and deodars. And then bam, a total 180. They're in the scorching hot, dry desert of Rajasthan, riding on camels. And just when you think it can't get any different, they end up on the humid, salty seashores of Puri. I mean, we're talking three totally different worlds, and each one was just bursting with its own special kind of life. Now, this observation they made, that different creatures stick to very different places, that's not just some random piece of trivia. Oh no, it's actually a clue that leads us to one of the most important ideas in all of biology, the idea of a home. And that big idea has a name, habitat. But a habitat isn't just a location on a map. Think of it more like a home address. It's a whole support system. It's the place that provides literally everything an organism needs to make it. Food, water, air, a safe place to hide, the whole deal. And it turns out we can pretty much sort all of these homes into two main buckets. First, you've got the terrestrial habitats. That's just a fancy word for anything on land. So, forests, grasslands, deserts, mountains. Then you've got the aquatic habitats, which you guessed it, are all about water. Oceans, rivers, lakes, you name it. Okay, so we've established where they live. That's the habitat. But that just brings up the next, even bigger question. How in the world do they survive in places that are so crazy different? And this is where we get to the real magic of the living world. To really get this, just look at a camel and a fish side by side. It couldn't be more clear. The camel, it's got these super long legs to keep its body up and away from that blistering hot sand. It excretes very little urine, doesn't sweat, and can go for ages without water. Now, the fish. It's got this sleek, streamlined shape to just zip through the water. And instead of lungs, it has gills to pull oxygen right out of the water. They are polar opposites, and yet each one is like a perfect piece of engineering for its own environment. And there's a word for this incredible design, adaptation. It's all those special features, those specific habits that let an organism live and thrive in its natural home. This is the key. This is the answer to that first question. Adaptation is exactly why a fish can't survive in the desert and a camel would have a really bad time in the ocean. And once you start looking for it, you see adaptation absolutely everywhere. Seriously, mountain goats, they've got these powerful hooves that are perfect for scrambling up rocky slopes. Yaks, living in the cold, have that super long hair to stay warm. Even plants are in on the action. A cactus basically got rid of its leaves and turned them into spines to stop water loss. And those pine trees up in the mountains, they're cone-shaped with sloping branches for a super simple reason. So all that heavy snow just slides right off. It's genius. So we've talked a lot about what makes life so different, right? All these amazing adaptations for different habitats. But now let's flip the script. Let's ask the opposite question. What do all these wildly different organisms actually have in common? I mean, think about it. We've seen how different a camel and a fish are, but what makes them both, well, living? What's the common thread that connects a goat on a mountain, a cactus in the desert, and a fish deep in the sea? What's that special something that separates them from, a rock or a pile of sand?
It's kind of funny. In the source material, Pahaley and Bujo were thinking about a silly poem where a table and a chair are talking. And obviously, we know a chair can't walk and a table can't talk, but that silly idea actually points to something really important. Unlike a table or a chair, all living things, they share a common set of features. It's like a secret checklist for being alive.
So what's on this checklist for life? Well, let's run through it. First up, they all need food for energy. Second, they all grow and change over their lifetime. Third, they respire. That's a fancy word for breathing to unlock that energy from their food. Fourth, they respond to what's going on around them, to stimuli. Fifth, they excrete, get rid of waste. And last but definitely not least, and this one's a biggie, they reproduce. They make more of their own kind. Okay, so there's our checklist. Seems simple enough, right? Problem solved. Well, not quite. This is where things get really, really interesting. Because sometimes that line between what's living and what's not, it can get surprisingly blurry. Just think about it for a second. A cloud gets bigger. Doesn't that count as growing? A car moves. That's movement, right? So they're ticking a box or two from our list. But does that mean they're alive? No, of course not, because they're missing all the other things on the list. But here's the flip side of that problem. What about something like a dry moong seed? You see it in a bag at the store. Is it doing anything on our checklist? Nope, it's not growing, not eating, not reproducing. If we just stick to our rules, you'd have to say it's non-living, right? But, and this is such a cool part, if you take that exact same seed and plant it, give it some soil and water, boom, it sprouts into a whole new plant. It was alive all along. It was just waiting. It had the potential for life locked inside, just waiting for the right moment.
Which brings us full circle, right back to that huge question. What then is life? What we've discovered is that it's not just a simple checklist you can tick off. It's something way more complex, more dynamic. Maybe it's all about potential, the ability to do all those things, even if you're dormant, just waiting for your chance.
So that one simple question that Pahaley and Bujo had, why a camel here and a fish there, it's led us on this amazing journey. We've talked about habitats, we've explored the genius of adaptation, and we've uncovered the characteristics that tie every living thing together. And after all the science, all the definitions and checklists, maybe the best answer is also the simplest one. When you look at the incredible variety of it all, the clever ways things survive, the sheer refusal to give up, maybe we can just conclude that life is beautiful.